Welcome to this week's Powerback episode. Today, we're talking about confidence, my friends. You know, that state of being when you see someone or feel it within yourself where you're grounded, you feel like you're on top of the world, like you've got this shit, like it's a really good feeling. But when it's missing, when we seemingly are lacking in confidence within ourselves, everything feels harder. The comparison comes out of left field and smacks you in the face. And you really start to question yourself and your abilities. So today we're going to talk about discovering and building your own version of confidence so that you can start to show up in your life, in your business as you, unshakable you, the you that backs herself up even when all of the answers aren't present. But there is a deep, deep knowing that you're meant to be there. Before we get into today's episode, though, I want to invite you to the next round of the Mindfuckery workshop. Okay, listen, if you get caught up in your head, if you know that you're meant for more, if you just keep getting these visions and keep getting called to take a risk in your business, to show up differently, to try something new, to change your life, but about the second that you start to do it, your mind takes over and stops you, then the Mindfuckery workshop is going to be for you. One of the most empowering things that you can do is learn about yourself, your tendencies, your habits, your belief system. Because when you're willing to peel back a couple of layers, get to know yourself, and also get equipped with some tools, some resources, and some ways for you to reclaim yourself and take action that actually moves things, my friend, you become fucking unstoppable. In the Mindfuckery workshop, we're going to do this together. Okay. There is nothing more empowering than raising your own bar alongside like-minded women that are doing the same. You're going to learn how to better support yourself when your mind wants to go on a wild goose chase so that you can actually start moving things forward in a positive way and achieve the goals, the dreams, the visions that you've had for so very long. Class begins on July 24th. Registration is open right now. And total bonus, if you are a member of the Gutsy Collective, which is my free Facebook group, there is a coupon code posted already to save $20 off of registration. That's going to be available through the end of the week, and the price goes to the regular price on July 1st. If you're not a member of the group, but you want to take advantage of it, no worries. Just go to the show notes, click on the Facebook group, join, and take access of the code. All right, let's shift into today's topic, which is about confidence. You know, I think sometimes we think that confidence is this thing that falls out of the sky, this thing that someone else has more of than you do, or somehow they've just inherently been blessed to have more confidence than you. And the truth is, most confidence comes from doing, comes from being, comes from mastering, comes from surrounding yourself with other like-minded people, comes from learning how to do something, to try it, to let it fail, to figure things out, right? Confidence really isn't this like thing that you can go to the store and buy off of a shelf, right? That just doesn't exist. Confidence is really a state of being, a state of acceptance, a state of being in your power, right? Like that's what Powerback episodes are all about. It's about reclaiming the parts of yourself that you have unintentionally given away through thoughts, feelings, expectations, circumstances, situations, you name it. It's very easy to unintentionally give away parts of ourselves. And I truly believe that confidence comes from not only starting to reclaim parts of yourselves, but really giving yourself a chance to try, to show up as yourself, to be who you are, to take the risk, to say, you know what, this might look and feel and sound different to the rest of the world compared to what everyone else in my industry or in my corner is doing. But this is me. And as me, that is where I get to be my most confident self. When you're in your most confident self, there's this state of groundedness, right? Like almost like you're unshakable, even though that is also a bit of a perception, which we'll talk about in a second. But it's like you're unbothered, your chin is up, you carry yourself in a certain way. There is this beautiful sense of gutsy, right? There's gutsiness in your own personal empowerment. And I see confidence as this place of strength and poise and ease. I think a lot of the lack of confidence that we experience comes from trying to be something that we're not, to force yourself into a box, to follow a system or a method or a process that someone else has created, to build your offers the way that someone else has, to charge what somebody else does, to like basically walk down someone else's path. Because I don't know about you, but when I'm trying to do something that doesn't belong to me, it just never really feels right, does it? Right? Like you're kind of weird and skittish about it. You kind of hold back from it. Procrastination. Hello. When there is something that I'm not supposed to be doing that's really out of alignment with me, I will procrastinate like hell on that. And part of this journey is the alignment portion, right? Like you have to understand what lights you up, what feels interesting to you, what feels most at home to you, even if it's new, even if it's scary, even if it gives you some butterflies. Those can all still be markers that say, you know what, this is like weirdly, nauseously exciting. And I think that there's something in this for me. When we start to give ourselves permission to act on those things, I believe that's where we truly start to be able to build our own level of confidence. Because my confidence looks very different than yours. Your confidence looks very different than your best friend's. Their confidence looks very different than their sister, right? Like everyone has their own version of confidence. And so this comparison, right? I can't do this episode without talking about comparison. Looking outside of ourselves, comparing where we are in our grounded self compared to where someone else is in theirs, it's doing yourself a disservice. Because what that is doing is it's comparing these invisible markers to say, she's made it, he's made it, they've made it. They've got this level of confidence. Why don't I? What is wrong with me? What we don't take into account is what they've done to lead up to it, how long they've been practicing something, where they are in their own personal journey of timeline, their circumstances, what they've said yes to, the hardships that they've gone through, right? Like you don't see all of those pieces. You're just looking at this kind of final product, so to speak. I've got an episode coming up in a couple of weeks with Erica Kramer, who goes by the Queen of Confidence. And I have to tell you, when I was getting ready to record with her, I do some background work. I'm prepping, I'm looking at the socials, I'm reading the content on the website, like getting myself in her space. And myself, I think of myself as fairly confident in quite a few areas of my life, but only because I have built it. But there was something about this particular day, whether I was just feeling a little bit off or maybe I was tired. I don't know what it was, but I started reading her content and I was like, oh, fuck. Like this woman's got her shit together, right? Like she's way further ahead of me. She's more successful than I am. She carries herself so well. She's got all of these pieces that are moving. She's seemingly doing really well financially, and I was like, hold the fucking phone, Laura. Where is this coming from? Because her level of success does not stop me from achieving mine. Just because she is confident doesn't mean that I can't also be. And that's the key I want you to take away from this today, is that someone else's confidence is simply proof that you too can be confident in yourself. But chances are you've talked yourself out of it. You've convinced yourself that's not for you. You've convinced yourself that it has to be hard. There's lack of clarity. There are too many things going on. Like something just feels gnarly. It's just not for you. But that is the mindfuckery in this piece. This is where you get to take your power back by starting to recognize that confidence is nothing more than doing something over and over and over again until it feels natural. Let me repeat that for you. Confidence is nothing more than doing something over and over again until it feels natural. Now, even when you begin to build confidence and you start showing up in spaces with this newfound confidence, it doesn't also mean that you are completely unshakable. And that's why I said I'm going to come back to that for a second. Because just because you achieve a level of confidence doesn't mean that that is now your standard, right? Like confidence comes in ebbs and flows. There are moments like what I told you when I was getting ready to interview Erica. Like I had a moment of like, I suck. And is that true? No. But after doing this work long enough, you start to build up this muscle where you're like, actually, I remember. I remember that I am capable. I remember that I am smart. I remember all of the achievements that I have created. I remember that confidence is my own power, and I can turn that power switch on at any given moment. Confidence is built from being willing to do something, to try something, to take risks, to make mistakes, to let yourself down for a second, to look ridiculous in front of other people, and then choosing to try it again and again and again. Confidence comes from recognizing your thoughts, your feelings, and then the actions that then support it. Confidence is built through leaning in, from trying new things, from shifting the narrative in your head, from surrounding yourself with like-minded people. Confidence is built from believing that you can and then supporting it by doing something that proves it. It could be super easy to listen to this podcast and be like, wow, Laura speaks really confidently. Like, she's on another level. I had somebody say that to me, like, oh, I didn't connect with you for a long time because I felt like you were on a different level than I am. And I want to remind you that, again, you're seeing the current day product of giving myself the opportunity to try, of believing that my capability was greater than my negativity, that I could create confidence by doing the same thing over and over and over again until it felt natural. So listening to the podcast, you might say, oh, Laura's voice is really confident. She knows what she's talking about. She really shows up. She's really gutsy. Yes. And I will accept that, because I also remember the very first time that I stood up in front of an audience to speak and I felt like I was going to fucking pass out. I remember standing up in front of a small group and my legs literally shaking like jello, the redness on my chest starting from my chest and moving the whole way up my neck, up into my face. I remember the very first episode of this podcast that I recorded 4.5 years ago, where it was all like completely scripted out because I was too afraid that I was going to screw something up, miss some information, or just like do something stupid. I remember the very first time that I interviewed somebody and I had no fucking clue what I was doing. But by trying these things, even when I didn't have all the answers, from doing them over and over again, from practicing, from showing up, from constantly like listening to myself and tuning in and what feels right and what doesn't feel right, that, my friend, is where the confidence was created. And that is what I'm suggesting for you as well. Giving yourself the opportunity to try, to do it over and over again. Check in with yourself and shift and pivot things as needed, and then perfect it as you go. That's how you build confidence. That is where the recipe begins. So let's walk through that. First and foremost is starting. If you want to build confidence, you must be willing to begin, because sitting and thinking about it is not going to make you confident. Journaling about it for 3 years is not going to build confidence. Saying you're going to do something and then not doing it is not going to build confidence. Confidence doesn't just show up. And confidence also doesn't come from howling things to death. Confidence starts from you starting, from you taking the risk, taking one action, showing up today, choosing to do something differently. It's little tiny steps along the way. So first, if you want to build confidence, you've got to be willing to take messy action. And that dovetails right into that messy action being one baby step that you can take today. Using the example of this podcast still, my one step 4.5 years ago was figuring out how to get the headset to work with GarageBand on my computer and how to hit record and save it. Like that was a singular step. I didn't always just have the confidence and know how to do that. I've never recorded like that before, right? Like everything comes from learning, and learning comes from doing. After that, my one next step was figuring out how to record an episode. What was my flow like? How did it sound? Like, how do I tweak things? That was a singular step. And I go all the way back with you for this so that you can see and understand and know that this confidence really comes from these tiny, minute decisions that add up over time. That I guarantee you, there's something that you do right now that is so second nature that you don't even think about it, that you are indeed confident doing, but you probably don't even acknowledge it because it's just like, this is just what I do. But at one point, that was a very new thing for you. But you chose to take messy action. You chose to do one small thing to help you on your path. And the next part of building confidence is consistency. You've got to continue to show up doing this over and over and over again until it feels natural. That doesn't necessarily mean doing it once this week, and then once 6 months from now, and then once a year from that date, right? Like that's not going to necessarily build your confidence. But if you're willing to show up, let's say even once a week to try this thing, once a day to try this thing, whatever the cadence is not as important as are you willing to show up and do it each time? This is the practice, right? Like this is the trying. This is the figuring out. This is the checking in with myself. What works here? What feels good? What doesn't work here? Why doesn't this feel good? This active doing on a regular basis is the meat and potatoes, right? Like now that you've decided to do it, now you're in the active work. You're literally building confidence. Like, again, I think that sometimes confidence is like, oh, now I've achieved this level of confidence and now it's there and here it is. But confidence isn't an endpoint. It's being fully grounded, present, and focused in each moment, knowing that with each yes to yourself, you are building a skill. And by building that skill, you're building your confidence. And if you find that consistency is something that you struggle with, then get an accountability partner, get a mentor, get a coach, get a friend that's trusted, that's in your world, that understands what you're doing, someone that can help you say like, okay, like, can we check in on each other? Can we build our confidence alongside one another? And last but not least today, my final suggestion as you build your confidence is to choose an up leveler. And you're like, ooh, Laura, what is an up leveler? And I'm like, I would love to tell you that. An up leveler is something that supports you and who you are becoming. So much of confidence is also tapping into our higher self, your aligned self, this person that's leaving breadcrumbs, this spirit, this energy that is guiding you and saying, hey, this is a great idea. Why don't we do this? And then you're like, oh, I just got an idea. This energy that is constantly guiding you every single day with every single decision. Ultimately, it's you, right? Like this is yourself. And an up leveler is something that helps supports that version of you that you are stepping into. So for instance, an up leveler for me was choosing to upgrade my microphone for this podcast. Fun fact, the $25 headset that I had used for 4 years died the same day that I found out that the Gutsy Podcast had ranked in the top 100. And I took that as a sign from the universe and my higher self. And even the headset was like, Laura, I have gotten you to this point and you must carry forth without me. Like my headset became this old wise man. My up leveler, the thing that I purchased and invested in, was my microphone, which helped pull me into this bigger space that I knew that I belonged in. So it could be a new piece of equipment. It could be something as simple as rearranging your office. Maybe it's getting yourself a fresh haircut or finally carving in time to read that book that you've been dying to sink yourself into. It might be a tool or a subscription that helps you simplify your business. Or maybe it's going to TJ Maxx or Marshall's and, getting a handful of new shirts that make you feel like a badass. The what isn't as important as the how it feels. The thing that creates and starts to expand the space that you are in to say, you know what? As I'm building my confidence, I'm going to treat myself to something that helps support who I am becoming. Remember that your confidence is you, my friend. It is already within you. You don't need anything fancy to have it. You don't need to do anything extravagant to receive it. It's simply giving yourself permission to try, to take messy action, and to do that thing over and over again until it becomes natural. And then own that shit, okay? Because there's a lot of confident women in this world that don't own that shit. So let's see it. Show me. Tag me in a photo if you post it on Instagram or TikTok, or a video that you make telling me about your confidence and the newfound messy action that you're taking to build it. Also, reminder, if you are interested in taking advantage of the $20 off the Mindfuckery workshop, you can go to the Gutsy Collective if you're already a member. And if not, you can go to the show notes, click on the link, join, and grab the code to register today. We'll be back next Wednesday with Phoebe Sherman about growing a creative business. So if you are a creative, if you hand make something, digitally create something, if you are a creator of some form or fashion and you're looking to grow your business, next Wednesday's episode is all for you. Get social with me on TikTok and Instagram. You can find me using @thatLauraAura. And as always, until I see you next time, stay gutsy.